Hey everybody, what's going on? Today I'm going to be going over the number one best financial New Year's resolution that you can make. So by the time you're watching this, it's going to be 2021, which means 2020 is finally over. And I know 2020 has been a tough time for everybody, so hopefully 2021 will be better. But you know what they say, new year, new me. And I don't know if you noticed this, but I feel like every time come January in the new year, everyone gets this sudden burst of motivation to go out and like completely 180 their lives. But this kind of energy just didn't exist in December, and they just call them New Year's resolutions, myself included. And some of these more common New Year's resolutions are like working out, eating healthy, not being depressed, that sort of thing. And honestly, they're all kind of hard and bare work. So the New Year's resolution that I'm going to give you is really easy to do. It just takes a little bit of discipline, and that way you can feel really productive without having to wake up at 5 a.m. and go on a 5K run. So what is this super easy financial resolution that I'm talking about? Budgeting. In my opinion, budgeting is the easiest yet most important financial literacy skill that you can have. Budgeting is a day-to-day activity that actually has an impact on your long-term financial goals. And if achieving your financial goals is like running a marathon, budgeting is taking that very first step. And I know it sounds stupid, you're like, man, like I know, just don't spend money, like it's light work. And I used to think that way too until I actually started budgeting and really seeing where money was going. So, what is a budget? A budget is basically a guideline of how much you spend each month. And ideally, you would like to be making more than you spend so that you can save for your goals. So, how do you budget? Well, the basics of budgeting is pretty simple. First, you write down your monthly take-home pay, how much you make each month, and then you write down how much money that you need to spend in order to live. So that's like your needed expenses, stuff like rent, groceries, transportation, that sort of thing. And then you write down your wanted expenses. So that's stuff like your wants, your Netflix, your fast food, your restaurants. And then finally, you want to determine how much you want to save for the long term. And that's when you write down your investments and how much you want to save. So why should you budget? A budget helps you keep track of where all your money is going. It's going to help you determine any spending habits that you have and help you save some money. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. The best comparison that I can make for budgeting is eating healthy and working out. If you want to be ripped like Larry Wheels, there's no way you're going to be able to do that just sitting at home doing nothing. You're going to have to go out there and work out, and you're going to have to count your calories, and you're going to put in the work. And it's the same way for your personal finance. If you want to achieve those goals, you're going to have to take those actionable steps in between, and yeah, that means you're going to have to budget. So how much should I spend? So this is a common question that people have when they're doing their budget, is like, how much should I spend on XYZ? And while, everyone's different, there's some loose rules of thumb that you can follow. So one popular rule is the 50-30-20 rule, which basically means you spend 50% of your income on stuff that you need. So that's like your housing, your food, your transportation, that sort of stuff. And then you spend 30% on stuff that you want. So that's like your fast food, restaurants, Netflix, clothes, whatever. And then the remaining 20% you use to invest and save. Obviously, if you want to reach your financial goals faster, you can save more than 20% of your income. But that just means you're going to have to be sacrificing a little bit from those other categories. And in my opinion, I think you should be saving as much as you can and paying yourself forward to invest into the future. So for example, with this 50-30-20 rule, say you have a take-home pay of $3,000. That would mean $1,500 would go towards your necessities, $900 would go towards things that you want, and then you would save the remaining $600. Now, I do have to say this budget seems a bit low, especially in the GTA, where your rent is going to be $1,500 at least, right? So the 50-30-20 rule obviously doesn't work all the time. So it's just a guideline, and you got to sit down and do it yourself and see what works for you. And one other note I want to make about the budget is to not be too harsh on yourself. As much as I want everyone to, reach their goals and be financially independent, and break free from the shackles of capitalism, you got to leave some room for those 3 a.m. McDonald's runs and those overpriced drinks at the bar. So what are some tools that can help you budget? So there are a lot of free apps out there like Mint and YNAB, which stands for You Need a Budget, which is a great name, that can help you organize your spending and make budgeting a lot easier for you. So these apps usually connect to your bank account and then categorize your transactions automatically without you having to do anything. But I personally do all of my budgeting on a spreadsheet just because I like to have a little bit more control. So just to show you some of the benefits of budgeting, I'll quickly go over my last year's budget. So as you can see here, this is, my budget. The way it's set up, I can change the month to see, what kind of spending I have. And each month I can tell you stuff like the income gained this much, the total amount invested. I can tell you the most expensive category that I spent. So that month I spent $198 in fast food. the most green. So I didn't eat any groceries in July, probably because I was living at home. And then, even in the overview, I can see month to month how much I made. I can see how much I spent. I can see the percentages, all this really meaningful data that I get all from transactions. And if we go to the transactions here, this is where it's all built from. So every single time I buy something, I quickly add it to this transactions spreadsheet, which is actually really easy to do. I just use this Google form and I type in this stuff. So for example, if I wanted to make a new expense, it would literally take 10 seconds. Like you write down something. Sorry, I can't really type. Write this stuff. Let's say it's related to utilities. Pick the card it's on, write some notes, and submit. That takes like 10 seconds to do. And with those 10 seconds, I'm able to fill out this spreadsheet, which gives me all this really meaningful data that I can use to plan for my future and help with my spending habits. And I have all this information just by spending like 10 to 15 seconds every time I buy something, which is like less than an hour the whole year. Or less than an hour whole year. And you may be saying, hey man, like 360 transactions, that's not a lot. But even if you tripled it, that's 3 hours of the whole entire year that you have. And for me, it's worth it, right? Like it makes sense. You have all this information that you can use and help you plan for your future. And of course, I spend like 10 to 15 minutes at the end of each month going over everything just to make sure everything's blessed. But other than that, I don't really check this every single day. I just every single time I buy something, 10-15 seconds, boom, done. And I know budgeting like this isn't for everyone, but if you're interested in this budget or like this spreadsheet, just let me know. I can go over it in another video. And hopefully after this video, I've convinced you that if you're gonna pick up only one financial literacy skill this year, it should be budgeting. Budgeting is easy to do, helps you keep track of your money, and helps you save for the future. But that's all I want to say for this video. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. If you liked it, please consider liking and subscribing. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the description or hit me up on Instagram. But other than that, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.